we serve a God of second chances and third chances and fourth chances. Now, I'm not saying you're not going to have to suffer consequences for the choices that you have made, but our Father is always ready and willing to rescue you. So last year, Amazon delivered 4 billion packages on either the same day you ordered it or the next day. 4 billion. So to get your head around that in numbers, so there are 341 plus million people in the U.S. So if every person in the U.S. hit the buy now button in the next 5 minutes, which wouldn't happen, but if that happened, within the next 24 to 36 hours, all of us would receive 11 packages. That's how quickly they deliver. So, but as much as I love how quickly they deliver packages, I love how quickly I can return a package and how easy it is to Amazon. I can walk into Kohl's or UPS with an armful of boxes that I ordered, and within minutes, I can walk out of the store empty-handed. It's awesome. It kind of takes the pressure out of like purchasing or making a decision about what you're going to buy, because why? If I don't like it, I'm just going to send it right back. Wouldn't it be cool if life was like that? Like real life, where you make this bad decision and it has bad consequences, and you could just take it back to the store and return it like it never happened. And thankfully, there are things like that in our life right now. Like we change our mind, we change our clothes, right? When we butt dial somebody, we just hang up, right? Or we make a wrong turn with GPS. You know, they reroute us to get us right back on the right track. Or, man, thank goodness for the delete button on our electronic devices, right? Where we could just delete something and rewrite it. We mess something up, we just start all over again. But then there are those decisions that you make, those choices, those mistakes where you wish, oh man, I wish I could have had that back. I wish I could have taken that back. It could have been as recent as this morning or last night when you said something to your spouse or your child, or if you're a student, to your parent that, oh man, I shouldn't have said that. That happened to Martha and I yesterday. She said something, I took it wrong, and I said something back, and I was like, I wish I could have took that back. Some of you wish you were watching the game last night between State and Carolina, right? Hey, look, some of you Carolina fans, you wish you could take that cuss word back, right? You wish you could take that back. Like you never said that, right? But then there are some decisions that are worse than that. Like a mistake you made, a choice you made in life that changed the course of your life. And it changed the course of others' lives. And you're like, oh, man, I wish I could have reversed that decision. I wish I could have. I wish I could return that and make it like it never happened in my life at all. Oh man, I wish I could do that. Truth is, you can't. You can't. But this morning, my prayer is that you come to the reality of something that is far greater than an Amazon return. We're in the middle of a series, and we've been talking about this guy that made a big-time mistake. I mean, he made a big time mistake, changed his life, changed the lives of other people. Like he went through this traumatic experience that he would take it with him for the rest of his life to the grave. And for those of you who haven't been here, we've been talking about the prophet Jonah, God's man. And God asked him to do something, and he said no. And he ran the other way. In fact, he got on a ship, but because God loved him, because God had a relationship with him, and because God had called him, God chased him down. And he chased him down by way of sending a storm. And then he sent this great big fish. So when the sailors threw him in the ocean, this big fish swallowed him, and he spent 3 days in the belly of this fish, in the pit of the stomach of this fish. And we're going to start in chapter 3 with some words that somebody in this room needs to hear, or somebody online needs to hear. So chapter 3, verse 1, we start out, the word of the Lord came to Jonah a second time. That's the word that somebody needs to hear today. It's for somebody in the room that you think you've done something and there is no way that God can forgive you. There's no way you're coming back from it. And there's no way that God could ever use you again. But as we see in these opening words of Jonah chapter 3, you got a second chance. We serve a God of second chances, and third chances, and fourth chances. Now, I'm not saying you're not going to have to suffer consequences for the choices that you have made, but our Father is always ready and willing to rescue you, to wrap His arms around you, and to use you for His glory. And so that's what we see here. And so it goes on in Jonah chapter 3, verse 2, go to the great city of Nineveh and proclaim to it the message that I give you. This is like act 2 of this story. Jonah obeyed this time. He obeyed the word of the Lord and went to Nineveh. Now, there's not a lot that we see in those few words, not a lot of details. I'm not sure how long it was from the time Jonah was vomited onto the beach to the time he actually made it into Nineveh with this message that God was going to. I don't know how long that was, but I think it's important that we just pause for a minute with what we're reading here and just kind of understand the state of Jonah. Because by any definition you want to have, Jonah just went through this traumatic experience in his life. And so to say that he was dazed and kind of vulnerable and weak at this moment would be an understatement. Still reeling from being in the belly, in the pit of this fish. Probably smelling a little bit nasty as well. A lot of commentators and communicators communicate the fact that because of being in the belly of this fish, he was probably pale in nature, kind of his skin all kind of pasty. And so, however you looked at Jonah in this moment, you have to know this. He was a different man after he was in the pit of that stomach. He was a different man. Jonah had been wrecked. He had been broken. He had been humbled by what he did and then what happened to him. And I would just ask the question, could it be that it was all part of God forming him for His purposes? God's love and mercy And if you don't hear anything I say today, I want you to hear this. God's love and mercy is always bigger than your sin. It's always bigger than your sin, whether you realize it or not. They repent and God relents. They repent. Again, I'm not just agreeing with God. I'm turning this thing around. I'm making a course correction here. And God relents. It's the story of God's relationship with humanity. And I have to give you a couple Hebrew words here that are just beautiful, that show you what's going on with the Ninevites and with God. So the first Hebrew word is shuv. S-H-U-V. It's pronounced shuv in Hebrew. And it literally means to turn around. So that's what the Ninevites were doing. They were shuving. They were turning around and going a different direction. And the same word could be used for God, to where he turned around and he did not bring the disaster. But with God, there is an additional word in Hebrew, and it's nacham, which means to relent and be satisfied. The Ninevites' response satisfied God, and he did not pour out his wrath on them. Watch, this is beautiful. In Jesus, on the cross, the wrath of God was satisfied for all of our sin, past, present, future. Jesus took care of it all. Listen to what Isaiah says in Isaiah 53. Surely he took up our pain and bore our suffering. Yet we considered him punished by God, stricken by him, and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed. We all, like sheep, have gone astray. Each of us has turned to our own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. How beautiful is that?